What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Recover Out Loud, episode number 75. We're three-quarters of the way to a Hondo. I'm actually really excited about that. But today we got a really awesome guest. We got Zoe Shaman from Oregon. How you doing, Zoe?
Hi, good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Like I said before, I hit the record button. One of the new games that I've been waiting for to come out came out today, and it's very reminiscent of when I was growing up and I was playing video games. So I was like super
Yes,
excited about that. Really amped.
that's
Uh,
awesome.
yeah. So would you like to give a formal introduction of yourself?
Um, I'm Zoe. I am a recovering anorexic. So it's been a very long process and it will probably be an ongoing process for I hope not the rest of my life, but it's
Yeah.
still an ongoing an
Yeah.
ongoing thing. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. So before we get into it and dive deep into some of those
mm.
things, how's the weather out there in Oregon?
It's cloudy, but it will probably burn off. Our sun gets warm this time of year, so
That's awesome. Yeah, outside it's weird. We're getting a lot of that smoke. I live in Maryland,
oh
so we're getting a lot of
yes.
the smoke from Canada
Mhm.
because Canada's on fire,
I know, poor things.
right?
Love
And
Canada.
right. I have a bunch of Canadian friends. This is sad.
I know,
Yeah,
poor
but
things.
it's part of Mother Nature, right?
It is.
And how she operates. So
It's true.
yeah. So what are some of the fun things out there in Oregon? I've never been to Oregon.
Oh, well, I mean, I think a lot of people come here for the breweries because we have a lot of breweries
Mhm.
and we have a lot of coffee roasters too. So it's either the beer or the coffee, but our hiking and walking trails, I mean, we have a lot of really great nature out here. So people definitely come for that as well. It's pretty nice. And the view, I mean, that's everyone wants to take pictures in Oregon. So that's pretty much nature, beer, and coffee.
Yeah, I have a one of my best friends from the army when I was growing up in the army, and he lives in Oregon, and
Oh,
he's getting married, and he wants me to come out there,
oh,
and
you should. You'll love it.
yeah, I'm trying to see what my schedule will allow me to do. I can't make any
Mm.
promises, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. No, I know.
Can't make any promises, and that's the thing. I always tell people can't make any promises, so I cannot ever let anybody down.
I know. It's so true. It's best to just say maybe.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so Zoe, let's
Yeah.
dive into it because when you reached out to me,
Mm,
uh, you approached me with something very interesting, a statement that I never thought of before. And
mm,
you said, I'm a recovering anorexic,
mm.
but a lot of it is mental.
Yeah.
And I sat with it and I looked at it. I said, she's absolutely right. As a part of a mental diagnosis in the DSM-5, which is the diagnosable manual for mental health disorders and
Mm,
substance use disorders.
mm,
And so I was like, I've never had somebody who, suffers from anorexia on the show or eating disorder. I've had people that said that they've had body dysmorphia before,
mm.
or but never anybody that suffered from anorexia. So
Mhm.
tell me, when did that start?
So, I definitely, as even from a pretty young age, felt that I wanted to look different than I was. I'm also adopted, so I didn't look like a lot of the kids around here, and most of the kids were just they were really thin and and fit, and I just didn't look that. I was not that at all. I was very much the opposite, and um, so it really started in middle school, and I just was still kind of the nerdy, chunky, weird kid out, I guess.
Mhm.
And the issue that I have that I want people to be aware of is that I learned how to become anorexic from the videos that they showed in school teaching us how we shouldn't be. And in my head, I saw this girl in the video, and she, got really thin because she was anorexic, and they were saying, don't do this because it's really harmful. Well, in my head, I saw, oh my gosh, look how thin she got so quickly. That's how I need to go about getting thin. So I was in 8th grade at the time when they showed the video. So unfortunately, how I learned how to be anorexic was from the video that was teaching us how not to be.
Yeah.
And that's I didn't, as someone who is recovering from it, I see how dangerous that is. And I see how, I have a teenage daughter now that she's constantly comparing herself to people in the media and just other kids around her who are thin, and she wants to be thin. And I have to be on her going, if you want to be thin, you need to you eat right, you exercise. You
Yeah.
don't go to this point, because that's what led me to that point. But unfortunately, what led me and taught me was the video that was teaching me not to.
Yeah. That kind of reminds me of a lot of the, when we're in elementary school or in middle school and we go through the
Mhm.
DARE program, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, don't do drugs. They're bad. And then it's like, well, I'm gonna do them because you told me
Well, yeah,
not
you
to.
told me not to, and now I know they're there.
Yeah, they're readily available, and so
Yes.
that reminds me of that, and so many other things in society, even in the education system, where they say, don't do this, don't do that.
Mhm.
It's like, well, you're telling me not to do it, and so now I'm gonna do it.
Right, exactly. Because you're in
Yeah,
that mentality. You're wanting to push against the system. And, it's like, you say no, I say yes.
yeah,
So I get it. I get it. And unfortunately, it I can say that it also applies to an eating disorder.
yeah,
The only reason I didn't go the bulimic route was because I hate throwing up. So I went, okay, I won't do that. I'll do this instead, which neither are good. They're both bad.
yeah,
And unfortunately, my health really deteriorated, and I really paid the price at much too young an age um, to deal with that. And
yeah.
so,
Was there a lot of bullying involved when you
yeah.
were younger? Yeah,
Absolutely. That was a big one too. I mean, you can see how all the thin, popular girls, they weren't getting bullied. Now, as an adult, I can see how much pressure was actually on them that they needed to stay this way. But at the time, it just looked like they were just home free, and I wasn't. So I just had to deal with the outcome of it. Just looked really hard for me and not hard for them.
yeah. How much of that played into a part of your decision making to say this is the route that I'm going to go?
Yeah, yeah. It was almost fully, that was the biggest decision, was constantly having, it was always boys,
Mm,
you know.
yeah,
I think there might have been a couple girls that kind of mentioned it, but it was really boys. And you're getting to that age where you're thinking about dating, you're thinking about sorry, my dog.
it's okay. Dogs are welcome.
Um, yes. Uh, boys are cute, and when the really cute ones aren't looking your way, you notice.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah. And the one thing that I highly dislike about society is that there's those circles that say don't let people influence the way that you think or you act. Don't
right.
let them influence your decision making. It's hard not to.
It's so hard.
Yeah,
It's so hard. Absolutely. And I see that it's the bullying and all of that. That's all changed how it comes at you these days, but it's very much the same in the long run. And my daughter's homeschooled, but
Hmm.
she's still with her group of friends through the school that she does go through online.
Hmm.
There's still lots of drama. There's still bullying. There's still all of that is still very much alive. I mean, cyberbullying is a problem.
Yeah.
And so it's an issue for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I was on a show with my buddy Chris, and we were talking about bullying, cyberbullying, and how
Mm.
it's evolved over the years, right? Because
Mhm.
when we were kids, it was words. You might get beat up a little bit. As boys, we get
Right.
beat up. Um, but then, like, you move on now, and it's relentless.
Oh my God. And
It
you can't hide. You can't, there's nowhere to hide now.
No.
No, you used to be able to run home and you could hide, and you can't hide now, and it's so hard to watch.
Yeah.
And with the media, you post pictures of yourself, and there are the people that are going to just nitpick every little thing about your face or your weight or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, and it's just heartbreaking to watch.
It really is.
It's so hard to watch. So
Yeah.
yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I definitely get it, and I I see some of the interactions, between kids and parents, and some of the things I see, like, even with the kids and the parents, like the kids calling the parents fat, like that's terrible.
Oh,
Like, and that's a learned habit from somewhere.
yeah, I know. And it's probably, media, school, what
Yeah,
have you.
yeah,
It's the media, especially. I mean, I know they're starting to use more curvy models and uh, actors and actresses, but you see that they still, over time, it gets to them and they lose weight.
yeah,
And they say, well, it's for my health. Well, good. It probably is for your health, but also that's showing people that, oh, well, maybe I should lose weight too,
yeah.
and they
Mhm.
might not go about it as the healthy way,
Oh
you
yeah,
know.
yeah. It happened to Adele. It happened to Melissa McCarthy. Countless
Yes.
others.
Yeah. Rebel Wilson is another
Rebel
one who
Wilson.
recently, yeah. And I mean, she looks great, but, she looked great before.
Yeah,
So, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I have no problem.
No, no, I don't give it. I don't care. Like, my girlfriend, she's bigger. I don't care how much she weighs.
No,
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what her body type is. She's a good human being, and she's good to
that's
me.
exactly right. Yeah. I mean, my husband, he doesn't care. When I got pregnant, I gained a ton of weight, and I had to talk myself down from going anorexic again after
Mhm.
having my daughter, and it was a matter of exercise and good, just eating well. I don't diet because that's one of my triggers. If I start, it's a big downward spiral for me. So I can't diet. I just have to eat well.
Absolutely.
Um, so I exercise, but I have to also make sure I don't over exercise because that's another trigger. So
Yeah.
I don't run every day. I don't, it's one of the,
Moderation.
I have to be very careful with everything that I do with wanting to remain fit.
Yeah.
And, it's like I could care less how thin necessary. I mean, I do care because that mental state is still
Yeah.
in there,
Yeah.
but I just want to be healthy. That's what I try to
Yeah.
keep in my head, is just remaining healthy.
Absolutely. So, going into it, what when after that, and after you saw the video in school, and you were like, okay, they're telling me this is bad, but this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
How did that end up playing into your daily life?
So, um, my mom was more hippie-ish, so I didn't eat the school lunches.
Mhm.
She would pack a lunch every day for me. And so what it became was I would go to school and I would just immediately, first thing going into school, I would dump all my food into the garbage can, and then I just wouldn't eat. And occasionally I would get hungry, obviously, and I would find a carrot, or something to just get me through the day. And when I would get really tired, clearly, and cranky and hungry, I would just have to tell myself, it's going to be worth it. It's not, but for me, it's like, it'll be worth it because you'll be thin like all those girls. And I just would push myself. And unfortunately, I had a friend who was having a similar issue, and she decided to go anorexic as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so we said to each other, this is perfect. We'll go through it together. We'll push each other together to both get to that perfect weight we want, which when you're anorexic, there's never a perfect weight. You're never small enough. You're never thin enough. And so we just kept getting thinner and thinner and thinner and becoming more and more sick, unfortunately. But it made it easier to be anorexic because I had someone doing it with me. So when I was having a hard time, I could talk to her and say, oh my gosh, this, and she'd go, oh, I know, me too. And then it's kind of like, oh, okay, I'm not alone, So unfortunately, it drove it even deeper.
Yeah.
It was awful.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of how the daily routine, and we would exercise on top of it. We started jogging, which you don't have the energy and you have nothing to burn. So it became more and more dangerous, and we were becoming more and more sick. But we just kept telling each other it's going to be worth it.
Yeah.
And it was awful. It was so awful.
What was it doing to your physical health? I mean, obviously, it was, you were considerably tired all the time, but
Very
also like
tired.
your body's not getting the nutrients it needs. What ended up
Yeah.
happening?
So I was losing a lot of hair. Um, and I became extremely anemic on top of it. That happens a lot with us young ladies, especially. We get very anemic around a certain time usually.
Yeah.
And so I became extremely anemic on top of it. My skin became very gray. Obviously your cheeks sink in, and I was very, very cranky, and I would get really woozy and feel like I was going to pass out, you know. Definitely school was really hard to get through, because how are you supposed to have brain function to know what 2 + 2 is
Yep.
when you have nothing going into your body to allow yourself to get any sort of nutrition. I think at one point I started allowing myself, I would find things that were fat free,
Mm-hmm.
and I would eat like a handful of that a day. And I would just always tell my parents that I was having dinner at a friend's house, so that I wouldn't have to come home and eat dinner. And they were like, oh, that's cool, at least she's making friends,
Yep.
so they were fine with it. And I wasn't. I would maybe go over to a friend's house, or maybe I just go and sit in my, somewhere and whatever, and then I'd show up later after dinner.
Yeah. Yeah. Did later on down the road, after things started going and you're a little bit deeper into this, did that social acceptance ever come into play?
Oh yeah. I mean, I started, um, boys started having a little more interest, uh, and of course that's going to feed the fire.
Yeah.
um,
Got to
you
maintain
know,
what I got.
yeah, it's like, oh, I'm on the right track because I'm getting, and all the cute clothes start fitting you, all the ones that you wish you could wear, and you're watching your jean size go down, and you can wear the cute little jeans. And um but yeah, definitely the bullying subsided slightly. And I I I hate to say it, but I was feeling more confident
Yeah.
because I had these things going in my way, in my favor. And so I felt more inclined to maybe be a little more talking more to
Hmm.
people and socializing. Because I'm generally a pretty quiet, shy person.
Yeah.
So it was really, I was able to come out of my shell a little bit, and what I thought was being me was not, but I thought it was. And I was, yeah. So definitely the social aspect of it, I was able to. And I didn't get popular by any means, but I made a few more friends and had people looking at me that wouldn't have been, before.
Yeah,
So,
I can relate, from a different perspective. And you said you felt a little bit more open and a little bit, you're out of your shell,
mm,
um, and that you were a little bit more, outgoing. And
mm,
I am a recovering alcoholic, and I always used to tell people, I said, "Hey, you don't know the real me until you met the drunk me." Because that's really, I identified with that, and I could be like,
yes,
this is the person you want to get to know, not
yes,
me. You get,
right.
I'm boring as shit. Sorry, I
No,
am.
good.
All right, cool. I'm boring as shit. But you meet drunk me, dude. We're gonna have so much fun. You put a little bit, just a smidgen amount of alcohol in my system, and
Mm,
I'm going out. We're gonna have a blast. We're gonna have a good time. And I was a little bit more out of my shell. And it wasn't until I got into recovery that I realized like that wasn't who I am. That was
mm,
a subsection of who I thought I was, my identity, but who I relate with now. I gotta have so much more fun than drunk Sean because drunk Sean was an ass. Sober Sean is pretty awesome. Sometimes I have the tendency to be an asshole, but I don't have a substance in my system to blame. So, uh,
yes.
but anyways, not about me. Um,
No, but that's great. I
yeah,
mean, you can relate. You
yeah,
can. You're a
yeah,
different person. You
yeah,
think it's the cool one, but it's not. You get it.
yeah, yeah.
That was awesome. I get it.
So, at what point did you start to realize like this ain't healthy for me, and I need to get some help?
Um, it actually wasn't me. It was um it was a friend of mine, and they could really see, they figured it out what was going on. They could see that there was an issue. And so uh they took me to a Mexican restaurant, and I wouldn't go out to eat with friends because it was like, no, 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 because then I would have to eat, right?
Yeah.
So they took me to a Mexican restaurant. I knew that restaurant, I knew their food was good.
Hmm.
And they sat me down and they said, "I'm ordering for you." And I said, "Oh no, I'm not hungry. I don't need anything." And they said, "No, I'm ordering for you." And they ordered the biggest burrito I've ever seen in my life. And they said, "You're eating that whole thing." And I said, "Oh, no, seriously, I'm really not hungry." And they said, "We're not leaving here until you've eaten that whole thing." Now, mind you, I hadn't probably eaten more than a handful of anything in, I hate to say,
Yeah,
maybe 2 years.
it would be a shock to your system.
And I took one bite of that burrito and it was so good. And my body, so I didn't end up eating the whole thing because I was like, seriously, I'm so full. I can't eat anymore. I think I ate the third half of it, maybe. And, but my body felt so good because that restaurant, oh my God, they're amazing. Their food's so good, but it's healthy. It's really
Yeah,
good. It's healthy. It's really great quality Mexican food, the best. And my body just, I felt all of a sudden I had all this energy. I felt amazing. I felt like I could have run 50 miles. I didn't throw it up, thank God. But it was it and amazingly enough, that's what actually turned the tables of how good I hadn't felt that good in so long that I went, okay. So what I did and what that friend did was they took me out to that restaurant every day for like 2 months of getting me there because we knew the owners of the restaurant, so we didn't have to pay anything. That was a bonus. But you know, I was able to slowly, and I just ate well. I didn't eat anything too crappy, but I started to just eat slowly. So luckily my recovery was um a lot easier than I think many people's is, but I just felt so good.
Yeah.
And I hadn't felt that good and I wanted to feel good. And so it became more of I kept exercising, but I started eating slowly.
Yeah.
And I started eating dinner at my parents' house again. And I just made sure, to eat what I wanted and leave the rest, but I was making sure it was just protein, vegetables, kind of getting the basics and skipping out on like bread and certain things that I felt I wasn't ready for to
Yeah.
put in my system. So, but it's still, even today, I've cut things out of my diet because I don't think my body does really well with them. I have slight allergies,
Yeah.
but um just I'd been really strict with myself for a really long time. I have to be really careful, but I did get really strict with myself for the last 6 years recently.
Yeah.
And I finally went, you know what? I miss crackers and chips and stuff. But so I started eating rice cakes. For me, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
But and like I said, I'm not anorexic anymore. I still, my parents know that I was, and I have friends that check up on me. They see that I'm a little thinner now, and they
Hmm.
kind of go, "Are you eating?" And I go, "No, I promise I am." My daughter will say, "She eats more than I do." Trust me, she's eating because I am. I promise. But um, still very strict with myself, and I have to be careful. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of triggers, so I have to really watch myself with those too.
Yeah. Yeah. I started on a diet when I moved back home,
Mm,
unwillingly, mind you.
okay.
Um, I, so I moved in with my dad. I used to live in Alaska, and some things
Mm,
happened, and I moved back home. And
mm.
I came to dad's house, and the first weekend, he's like, "Hey, we're starting a diet," and I was like, "What?"
Oh,
He's like, "Yeah, we're going keto," and I was like, "What?"
oh,
I was like, "Dude, I don't know what that is." And then I found out really quick what it was, and I was not happy
uh-huh.
because he wouldn't buy anything else for the house except for that.
Yes.
And so, I started to realize like that isn't necessarily a healthy route for everybody, right? You know,
No,
dieting for an anorexic is not really that great either.
no, no.
No, because you're cutting those essential nutrients out of your body that your body needs.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And and they love to say, don't eat any carbs, don't eat any, um, I know my husband's dad was going through, he decided to do a diet, and I was eating yogurt with raisins, and he's like, "Oh, you shouldn't be eating raisins. There's a lot of sugar in there. That'll make you fat." And I'm going, you know,
it's not
they
something you should
taste
say.
really good. I think they're good for me. I'm going to eat some raisins. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
I
What?
need that sugar. I need that to get energy. It's a different kind of sugar. This isn't a candy bar, type
Yeah.
of a thing.
Well, see, what a lot of people don't realize is that if you eat sugar, you eat carbs. It helps give you energy so that when you do go do those daily functions,
Yeah.
it provides that energy for you, and it's okay to have that as long as you're eating it in portions and not overdoing it. So these
Exactly.
people that are shoving loaves of bread down their mouth, that's not good.
No. And hey, sometimes I wish I could do that.
Yeah, right.
I do. I do. But I don't, I, there's things I miss for
Yeah,
sure. But, for me, I eat a lot of rice
yeah,
and it's a carb. And people tell me all the time, it's like, well, that is a carb. And I go, I know it's a carb, but my body loves it. And
yeah,
I love to put all the things. It's like, I can't have a curry without rice. I'm sorry. It's
yeah.
like, I want that rice with my curry,
Yeah.
or if I'm having, I'm making my Mexican meal, that I love so much. I love beans and rice. It's like, I'm going to have my rice. I'm sorry. The
Yeah.
beans are going with my rice.
Right. Absolutely. And
I'm
that
not
and
going to,
it should. It's supplementing and it's giving your body the proper nutrients that it needs to survive.
yeah,
Um, so what what are you doing now for yourself to keep yourself afloat? Because we talked about how it's a mental thing,
yeah,
kind of like a mountain really to get over. What are you
it
doing
is.
for yourself to um, to make sure that you're in the right mind frame?
Right. The biggest one that I have advice for if you are recovering from an eating disorder that I cannot, under any circumstance, I can't weigh myself
Yeah,
at all. Because even today, if I get on a scale and I see my weight, um, my mind immediately wants to be less.
yeah,
And that's so even when I go to the doctor's office and they weigh me, I look away.
yeah,
I cannot look at that scale under any circumstance. That's for me is the biggest trigger of all is weighing myself. So I don't weigh myself um, ever. Um, the other one I think that really drives me is my daughter, is watching her go through it and going, okay, so if I start, she's going to see and she is going to want to do the same. And so I can't, and even if you don't have a kid, it's a little sister, it's a brother, it's a niece. There's going to be someone who's going to see and may get that idea. And so my daughter's a big one that definitely drives me to never go back. Um, and I think just every time at this point that I make a meal, I'm the cook in the house. So when I make a meal, I taste it and it tastes so good, I try to push that into my head of going, do you taste how good this is? Do you see how good you feel when you just add that one spoonful of whatever it is?
yeah,
You need that.
yeah.
You have to have that in your body. I worked in kitchens. I've been a baker and a chef. I'm a retired now from that, but I did it for a long time, and that kind of drove me too. I have a love for cooking, surprisingly, after all this. I have a love for cooking. I'm obsessed and I love food. Now, am I going to eat everything that I had to bake? No, because I saw what went into it and I don't want that in my body.
Yeah,
But I did it and I saw how it made people feel. And I love that. I love what food actually does for people and bringing people together. And I think that drives me as well, is reminding myself how food is so important. And it's like there are people that are starving other places that wish they could have this food
yeah,
that and it's like, why would I want to deny myself when I have the ability to have it and there are people that can't have it?
absolutely.
And I wish I could do more. Like if I had all the funds in the world, I would be flying to other countries and just giving just boxes of food to people. I mean, this is such an important thing to have in your life. And that's, once again, that's what today of being a recovering anorexic person, that I'm doing to remind myself to keep eating.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, you hit on something, and I think it's very profound. You mentioned how there's, whether it's your daughter or whether it's, a friend or a family member,
Mm,
someone may be suffering from the same thing that you went through,
yes.
and being able to reach them on that level and talk to them.
Mm,
That reminded me when you said that, being in recovery, and I came home, and I'm more close to my family now, like
sure.
my real family.
Mm,
I found out some people in my family were addicts,
mm,
and they seen the progress that I made, and it changed them to want to get healthy.
exactly.
And I was like, holy shit. And so, yeah, definitely, you're 100% correct. You influence the people around you. You can positively influence or negatively influence those
Yes.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's incredible. You don't know. Once again, you don't know who's watching.
Mm-mm.
You don't know who's listening. You don't know. And in a positive or a negative, I mean, I thought about for years. I was like, I should be going around to these high schools and middle schools and telling them, listen, your videos are what actually made me do this. And maybe you should have someone who actually went through it in person be here to talk about it. You
Yeah.
know, it's, I mean, I don't know how, I mean, that video, thinking about it, was gruesome. Like, how would I, if I watched that now, I would never even consider doing what I did. But at that time, for some really ridiculous reason, I thought it was a good idea.
Yeah.
And I wish that I could help more.
Yeah.
I I I don't talk about it a lot. And I know that it my daughter knows people that are, and I wish that I could talk to them, but I'm not a therapist. you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
they're not going to come. Why would they come to me?
Because you have lived experience. That's
That's
why.
true. But people want therapists. I'm not a therapist. I probably should have been.
From my personal opinion, and from a lot of people that I know, they would much rather trust people with personal experience or lived
Oh, I agree.
experience
Yeah,
than somebody who read it out of a book.
I agree. No, I agree. Absolutely. I went to therapists as a child and I got nothing out of it. Talking to other adopted people and other anorexic people later definitely made way more sense of having them go, oh, yeah, no, me too.
Yeah.
Instead of someone going, well, how does that make you feel?
Oh, I hate that
What
phrase,
does
that
that
question.
mean? Why would I be here if it made me feel good? I
Right.
wouldn't be. So how
Yeah.
does it make me feel? It makes me feel like crap. So
Right. I've answered that question and be like, well, it's making me angry that you're asking that question.
there you go.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
I was
So
okay until you asked that question.
it was. I was doing great because I'm here. And now I don't know why I'm here.
Right. Right. So before we jump off here and before we go, what advice would you give to somebody that is struggling with anorexia, or is in their early phases of recovery for anorexia?
Um, I would definitely say reach out. Even if it's not someone who was anorexic, you need to talk to people. It's so important to ask for help.
Mhm.
People don't ask for help. Male, female, it doesn't matter. You need to, there's going to be someone in your life, someone that you can talk to. You don't have to go to a therapist. You can go just anybody. Freaking tell your dog, for heaven's sake. Just tell somebody. they're gonna listen, you know. um I don't know. It's just, please reach out to anybody. There's groups. There are groups, and remember that food is, there's a there's healthy ways of eating, and you can come back from it. It's really important too. It's so important to, life can suck sometimes, but it, you know what? It can be great. So,
Absolutely. And you're beautiful the way you are.
thank you. You too.
I love myself.
There you go. Me too.
I,
Great.
I used to hate myself. But, anyways, Zoe, I want to take a moment and say thank you for sharing your story.
No,
And
thank you.
thank you for being brave and talking about it. It's not
You,
easy,
no, it's not. Thank you
but
very much.
I do appreciate you,
Thank
and
you.
uh, and I'm always here if you need to talk.
Great. Thank you so much. Same here. Same
Thank
here.
you, thank you, thank you, and everybody. I want to take a moment and say thank you for hanging out with us and hearing Zoe's story. It's very inspirational. And until next time, hope you have a good day. Much love. Be good.